Hi everyone. I'm doing my project on the Tongass National Forest and the Roadless Area Conservation Rule. A little background about the forest and the Roadless Rule. The Tongass National Forest is a 17 million acre forest located on the southern coast of Alaska, southeastern coast of Alaska. It's also home to the largest temperate rainforest in the northern hemisphere, and has a large volume of old growth forest. The Roadless Area Conservation Rule, or sometimes referred to as the Roadless Rule, was originally adopted in 2001 during the very end of the Clinton administration. The rule prohibited any road construction or road reconstruction, as well as commercial timber harvesting in any multi-use national forest land. So all of the Tongass National Forest is distinguished as designated as multi-use national forest system land. In 2020, the USDA under the Trump administration reversed this rule and decided to pursue a different alternative under a new performed EIS by the administration, which allowed for commercial timber harvesting. Up to now current, the Biden administration has taken a pretty strict policy on reverting the roadless rule back to what it was originally in 2001 under the Clinton administration. They have just recently proposed a new rule, which was open for public comment. And that public comment period actually just recently ended on July 24th of this year, of January 24th of 2022. In addition to the rule proposed by the Biden administration's USDA, Congress has also introduced legislation which would codify the roadless rule into law. The part of what makes this issue of such interest to me is the large amount of stakeholders. There are the commercial fishing industry of the area is a major stakeholder, their biggest concern being the sediment that can wash into waterways from logging or commercial timber practices. The timber industry as well, they have a lot to gain from being able to harvest a lot of the natural resource timber that's in the area. The tourism industry, fishing as a part of that, is a large draw for tourists to come to the Tongass National Forest. Environmental organizations were part of the initial lawsuit against the Trump administration, as well as local populations who require timber industries and fishing industries for employment, and local native populations. And there's also a large national perspective on this. The timber industry is responsible for a lot of paper products, and especially right now, housing is a major hot button issue, and timber has become much more sought after because of the limits in the housing area to get those resources. The relevant laws and policies. The Administrative Procedure Act is certainly one of the most relevant because it establishes the rulemaking process for the USDA. NEPA as well, especially since this deals directly with an EIS finding from 2001. The Wilderness Act, which designates the multi-use National Forest System land, the General Mining Act of 1872, and the National Historic Preservation Act have both come up during the public comment period, both previously for the original rule and from the revised rule from this past year, as both being relevant to the EIS that was performed. And so those two particularly are going to be of interest to see how they're dealt with in what's likely going to be a new EIS performed by the administration. The major controversies surrounding this, particularly, and probably part of the reason that this issue gets so much national attention, is within climate change. Old growth forests are well established as being very good carbon protected areas or carbon reserves, and are able to deal with carbon emissions much more efficiently than new growth forests. That being said, there are benefits to having new growth forests, and many of the logging industries have particularly focused on the incentives of new growth forest and what that can do for an area as well. So I think that is probably one of the largest major controversies of the area. Many scientists and climate change activists have called for actually additional measures to be taken by the administration, calling for permanent protections and a designation of a carbon reserve system within that area. Some of that is addressed in the proposed rule from by the Congress, by the House of Representatives, but those are probably the largest reasons that this issue has gotten so much attention. Likely outcomes are going to be, there's likely going to be a new EIS that's performed as part of the new proposed rule. This EIS will likely consider many of the alternatives that were suggested by the previous EIS and the Trump administration, but will also look into additional systems. It seems to be unlikely that the bill proposed in Congress is going to get any traction. This was proposed in 2021 and had a lot of co-sponsors, but did not move very quickly through committee. So it may be something that comes up later, but it did not appear on any recent committee meetings or on the schedule for the House. The public comment period for the most recent proposed rule, as I mentioned previously, has just ended. So it's likely that the outcome of that is going to lead to a new EIS, as well as additional rulemaking by the USDA for the Tongass National Forest. Because the administration is so steadfast in its efforts to try and revert back to the rule, what I believe is likely to happen is that the rule is going to become reestablished by the Biden administration's USDA department or USDA agency, and likely that's going to place the Tongass under new protections. In addition, I think many stakeholders are going to continue to fight against this because the Trump administration was able to reverse the rule through an environmental impact statement. It's likely that lawsuits will follow from the timber industries, as well as the Alaskan state government, including the governor, who have been very vocal about trying to protect or trying to utilize the natural resources of the Tongass National Forest. So likely additional lawsuits are going to follow as well. That is the basics of what I'm hoping to research for my project, and look forward to any comments any of you might have. Thank you.